Silk 106.9.
Episode 3 then of Silk Sports Friday Night Football Club. Myself, Mike Wayne, Scotty, as always, and Scotty, we've got a special guest for a change. It's not just me and you talking crap.
I know, he's chosen to come with us instead of CBB's line this week.
That's what you call a start. Ed Haslam, Macclesfield Reserve Manager. Mate, how are you?
Yeah, fine, thank you. Thanks for the invite.
Absolute pleasure. We'll get straight into, obviously, looking at last weekend, Ed, and obviously from a Macclesfield perspective, it was a great weekend for both first team and reserves. Let's start with your guys, with the reserves. I mean, 2 games, 16 goals. You don't like letting goals in. You've not really had a bad start, mate, have you?
No, it has been really, really positive. And I suppose when you look at the results, people think it's a bit, it sounds ridiculous, but like the league isn't probably the standard that we were hoping. Now, obviously, first of all, we've got to start at the bottom. Like Mac's first team didn't want to start where they are, but we've got to, and our reserves didn't really want to start where we are. But we are playing against teams that have their first teams are higher than our first team. So, for example, on Saturday, we've got Nantwich Town, who their first team was above ours. So the standard is, it's not amazing by any means, but we've got a very young team. And what we've done isn't normal. Like the standard of players that we put together, we made a point to say when we sort of put the team together with Robbie and Rob that we need players on the reserve team that if and when called upon could step into the first team. And genuinely, they have blown my socks off with one of the managers said to me at the end of the first game. We had Tyler James and Luce Stead, who both signed both signed first team contracts after that game. They couldn't believe the standard that we've put together in a short space of time. They couldn't believe how fit the boys were. And I think that's down to me, Wits, Bandy and Wardy brought the lads back in about 10 weeks ago. Like we've been at this, making sure we hit the ground running for, I mean, it just seemed forever. And to get going was a real weight off our mind. We were just so eager to get going. But to turn over 9-0 and 7-0 was unbelievable. And I think when people are checking the league and there's sort of people taking notice, and our only worry is that teams will possibly come in for some of our players because they are really, really talented young lads. We have about the policy that me and Robbie were looking at, sorry to waffle on a little bit, but we sort of said that we want to keep it within under 23s. There's no point of us filling a reserve team full of older boys that are just going to walk the league. We want young, we want hungry boys. We've probably got 3 older lads. If you take our goalkeeper out, which we're sort of using as a goalkeeper and a coach, he's great in the dressing room, he's great with the younger lads. Our average age is probably 18, 19, and those boys want the first team, and they are very, very talented lads. Tyler James scored 6, got his first team contract. Lou Stead was unbelievable. Lad from Liverpool, again, got his first team and was on the bench in the FA Cup. So the boys are hungry. They really, really want this, and they are taking a lot of pride from putting on that shirt every week.
Scotty, we've obviously spoken quite highly about Mac and both the first team and the reserves. But obviously you went on Saturday, Scotty, to watch the first team in the FA Cup. There was a few, I suppose, niggles from people around, oh, well, they drew in midweek. It wasn't the best defensive performance. What was, a question supposed to both of you really. Scotty, to you first. What was the game like Saturday? Was there a reaction to the FA Cup, compared to the game midweek?
4 first half goals is certainly a reaction from my point of view. I think having Kennedy back in defence was great. You know, we played our 3 new. Rodney was back in midfield, which was good to see because I've not seen him since pre-season. And then we had the 2 new guys up front. I think overall, we just seemed a lot more secure, and of course Pearce saved a penalty as well, and he got a little bit of stick after the game against Winsford as well, very unfairly to be honest, but he's had 2 home games now and 2 draws. I know both against Burscough, but I think the team looked really good from my point of view, and we could have got way more than 4 goals.
And you know, Ed, from your perspective, obviously you've been around the team, around training and everything. There's a lot of expectation on Macclesfield FC as a football club on the whole. That's pressure on the Magic Man himself. That's pressure on Bandy, yourself, the management team throughout the club, but also pressure on the reserves because let's be honest, it's a league that you should win. What's it been like in the days after the first, let's say, hiccup? As a football coach myself, you ain't going to win every game. You've got to be realistic. It's these type of things happen. But from behind the scenes, what was the reaction like to dropping points at Winsford and the expectations of obviously reacting to Tyler and Louis stepping up?
Yeah. And I suppose from when I started, I always knew that was the case. Our lads perform well and they get the chance, and that's the way reserve team should work. And I've got to understand that. And I know Witts came out after the game and he was sort of very level-headed, but I can assure you he was absolutely furious at that game. Maybe I shouldn't say that. And he has to sort of save face a little bit when he goes after the game and talks to the fans, but he certainly wasn't happy. The club weren't happy. And I know we've got expectations, and Robbie always says it, we're everybody's cup final, whether it be the reserves. Our reserves, we arrive in a minibus and already there are faces on us. And we've got expectations. We can't be part of Maxfield Football Club and not keep that standard. We've got to make sure that we are winning every game. Both the reserves and the first team are expected to win their respective leagues. I know our job isn't to win the league, but as a manager, obviously I want to win things. But again, I know our main role is to support the first team. But when they drew 4-4, the mood of the club, they wanted a reaction on the Saturday and they knew what to expect. And the two new lads they've brought in are a complete game changer. I saw those two train and they potentially are going to be the difference. And I mean, that's not to put any more weight on their shoulders, but the lad they've got on loan from Altrincham, obviously, hopefully, potentially could be all season. And the striker that they've got from Charnock is those boys can play. And obviously the rest of the lads, they were unlucky with Eddie having COVID, unlucky with having COVID, and he was a big part. And I actually, obviously, we're watching the first team during pre-season. I was around the management. I did a bit the other week, but actually in the league games, I don't get to see them play. But all I can hear, and when I speak to Banny and Witts, is those sort of those murmurs. But I can assure you, they had a point to prove when they hit first go again on Saturday.
And just, I suppose, one other question from me, Eddie, talking about Mac, and I know Scotty will have some things to fire at you as well. But for me, you've gone from, am I right in saying you were managing Knutsford the previous season? Mm-hmm. You kind of, at that level, you manage a side and you do your best to build a local community football club. You've gone from managing Knutsford to the reserve team manager at Maxfield, working with Robbie Savage in the leasing.com stadium. Do you sit there at times and think, what on earth has happened in this past 6 months?
Yeah, and it is crazy, and it is a sort of a whirlwind. I've actually known Rob Smethurst for a while. I've known him for a few years, and sort of that was the connection. So I've always known Rob, but when I had the first meeting in the boardroom with Sav and a few of the others, and getting to be at the leasing.com stadium and train there, it's a complete whirlwind. I'm a local lad. I went to school in Macclesfield. And it wasn't the first time, and I said this actually at the fans forum, I've campaigned for this level in football in the town for years and years. I was manager at AFC Macclesfield, which our aspirations were to hopefully bridge local talent into Macclesfield first team. But at the time, the owners, the management, they weren't interested. So to take a punt on this and to make sure it works, I'm only very grateful of the club doing it. But yeah, no, it's a fantastic opportunity. I've got a very busy daytime job. I've got a young family, but this was an opportunity that I just couldn't turn down.
Absolutely. Scotty, it's one of those situations, mate. Who you know, not what you know. That's what he's telling us. Yeah.
Absolutely. But we've seen from the Cheshire League, there's some decent sides in the Cheshire League. So I'm wondering, in your kind of role, is your role to get players in to try and get them up for the first team, or are you looking for players to also make the reserve team win the league, if that makes sense?
Yeah, no, it absolutely does. From my point of view, I want to win the league, but I know if you speak to Seb about it, there is no point us filling a reserve team full of, 30, 35-year-olds that are never going to be able to make it in the first team. We want hungry lads like the Tyler Jameses, like the Lewsteads that are 18 or 17, 18 years old, maybe in a couple of years are going to play first team football. A lot of these boys, when they drop out of academies, either fall off the pyramids, they just don't continue. But a lot of them have never got men's football. And that sounds ridiculous, but if you've come out of a youth team and you've been dropped at under 18s or under 19s, you've never got that experience of a 35-year-old that's going to put you up in the air when the ball comes at a 50-50 challenge. They don't have that experience. So without having us as a reserve team, a lot of the boys then fall away. Like if we hadn't have put the reserve team in, we wouldn't have the lads stayed around the club. They would have gone to maybe another North West Counties clubs, or they would have gone elsewhere. And then the sort of production levels, then that falters. We have a few boys at training that we assess. We bring them in on a match day. We assess if they're good enough, and if they are good enough, we'll speak to Bandy and Wits. But it's two-pronged really. I want to win the league, but I also know I've got a job to do, support the first team, whether that be give the first team lads minutes. Let's say someone's not included in the 16, it's either they're twiddling the thumbs in bar 27, or they come and get 90 minutes for me, or there's a lad back from injury or whatever, or actually we're supporting the first team if they need it, if they've got injuries or they've got illness or suspensions. We're there where we've still got a gulf of talent ready to step in the shoes of people that might be missing.
And is there anyone currently in your team which may be bridging? Because I think I can't pronounce the name. I apologize. Is it Suarez? Zhao Suarez.
Sorry, Zhao. Yes.
Sorry. Yeah. So do you reckon he's the next one to bridge the gap between your league and the first team?
And Zhao's a great example of this. He has come and he's been on the bench a couple of times, but because he's a young lad, he hasn't that experience of adult football. He's found it difficult, but actually came on Saturday and did brilliantly well. But like Tyler James isn't going to be in the first team every week. There's no way. I think he's such a talented lad, but you can see with the size of him that he probably needs a bit of physical development, but he's quick and his runs in the channels are brilliant, and he will make an impact in the first team, I've got no doubt. But like Lou Stead, for example, we potentially are bringing in another centre-half by Friday. I know that's sort of, Sav's mentioned that on the Facebook group, but that means then Lou goes down the pecking order a little bit. Now, he will then get his minutes with the reserve team if there isn't the place in the first team. Now, if we hadn't had the reserve team in place, now mark my words, Lou, if we keep him, will be a future captain. The way he sort of commands already at 18, a dressing room, the way he talks, he is a real talent. He was playing for Tranmere last year. Now, if we didn't have a reserve team, Lou would have gone missing. He'd have gone to another club, and again, we wouldn't have had the lads coming through into the first team. So there are plenty of lads. Tyler Beck, done another one. He's again come from the B-Tech, done a bit in the first team. He will then spend probably the year with me and then see where he is at the end of the year. We've got a few lads down tonight. Tim Cahill's son, I don't know if I can say that. He trains tonight. So, yeah, I mean, we've certainly got lads coming through, but they need a platform then to prove themselves and then be knocking on Bandy and Witz's door.
I'm taking that as an exclusive. I think Scotty seems to have fallen off his chair and passed out. I don't know if he's disappeared or if he's coming back. But we'll go with an exclusive on the Friday Night Football Club. Scotty's back.
Yeah, I like it. Yes. Yeah. No, I just had to hide my way and talk to my daughter. It's called recording from home. Sometimes has these these things.
Yeah, I've had to shut the door so the dog doesn't walk in, mate. So we're all on the. I suppose my only other question, Ed, because obviously I've been fortunate to be in a position where I've been a reserve team manager and a first team manager, and that relationship between the reserve team manager and the first team manager is critical in the transition of players to come through, because as you say, you're ambitious, you want to win the league, but you also know that your primary job, and it's crazy because your priority should be to win the league. But as a reserve team manager, it's to progress the younger players and get them into the first team. And that's where you're judged, isn't it? So
absolutely,
how important is that relationship between yourself, Danny Witts and Bandy for the players?
Yeah, we train to get not train together, but we train on the same evening. Bandy and Witts can cast their eye over the reserve team training. They can see what lads are doing what. And me and Bandy have got a really, really positive relationship. If he rings me up on a Friday night to say someone's ill or someone's picked up an injury or someone's not quite made it and they need so from week one we won 9-0. Tyler James scored 6. Week 2 we don't have Tyler James, but that's the way it is. You can't sort of moan about that. That's the way it is, and we want the first team to go on and cruise through the leagues. And if I can support that a little bit, then great. I think we've got the quality in the squad which can win the league anyway. I mean, we should be doing that. But yeah, if Witts needs any of the players, he knows that he could just ring me and say, look, I need this. As much as it's not great for me, as in to win a game, then so that's fine. I understand that. I didn't take this job to think that wasn't the case. I'm not going to moan about it. I don't want to lose to Tyler James every week, but I know for Tyler James and for the club, that's the best thing. So I'm never going to stand in someone's way or moan or say they shouldn't be doing it, because they absolutely should. And it's great if we could get 3 or 4 more lads in by the end of the season, but we sort of see how it will go.
Scotty, from our perspective, as fans first and foremost, it's great to listen to a member of the management team at the club we love and support talking about that, I suppose, focus on developing players, isn't it? Because you do hear a lot in football about managers they're in it for personal gains. We don't have that at Mac.
No, it's great. Obviously, a lot of the times you see the bigger leagues and these kind of the academy kind of thing doesn't really get a look in. So actually seeing what we've got on Mac, and actually we're playing, with players like Tyler, players like Rocco that's coming to the team as well, former BTEC lads. I guess coming now, if you're playing, for example, in the BTEC team, there's this future in football now for you, and locally in Macclesfield as well. And it must be so exciting for the youngsters.
Absolutely. I think to wrap up the FA Cup section of the show, then we've obviously Mike with a 4-0 win. Squires Gate, I believe, is the next opponent. Another very winnable match on paper. Northwich Victoria, another local side, picking up a 2-1 win to progress. Congleton, unfortunately, dropping out of the FA Cup, a 3-2 defeat to Emley on Sunday. What's your, Scott? I'll ask you first. What's your favourite FA Cup moment?
My favourite FA Cup moment, it has to be Cardiff at home, Mac versus Cardiff. I think it was it Barnes-Homer that scored late on? It may have been a penalty. I may have made that up. But we won 2-1 against Cardiff, and obviously they were a championship team at the time. And I just remember, I don't think the Star Lane end's ever been that rocking. It was absolutely amazing to be there. And then that was the year we progressed to the 4th round of the Cup against Wigan. It was just an awesome moment. Absolutely loved it.
And I think that's the thing, isn't it, Ed? Because when you are a supporter of a club and your side progresses, whether you are Giant Killing, I'm fortunate to have played and managed FA Cup games, very preliminary rounds, but to see your local side do well and get through is great. What's your, I suppose, FA Cup highlight? It doesn't have to be a Mac one. In general, an FA Cup memory for you?
Well, I played when I was younger. Now, I played for John Askey actually when I was of that
his
age.
Name dropped again, Scotty. His name dropped.
And then when I went on to, I didn't make the cut. When I look back now, there was nowhere near I was good enough. And I went over to Congleton. So I played for Congleton in the FA Cup. Now, from a selfish point of view, that was probably, we played a team in Birmingham at the time. But I'm away from me playing. I'm a United fan, so
Oh, Scott, you didn't tell me this before we got him on.
I didn't know, or else this would have changed the whole dynamic of this.
Having words.
Yes, and obviously I've seen the Liverpool Teddy, so I don't know if anything more needs to be said. There's a certain goal by Eric Cantona that I remember, but
that's probably my FA Cup nightmare, because I still, Ed, I don't get for the life of me. Rob Jones is still on the sideline and he flicks his heel up at the side of him. So why didn't he just step across and take the ball in the chest? I still remember that moment.
Yeah, I know. Vividly. No, that was great, but yeah.
Because I think for me, one of mine, I suppose, recent ones is, I think it would be the Gerrard equaliser against West Ham at the Millennium Stadium, 3-2 down to West Ham. Should have been winning the game by a country mile. And the reason it was memorable, because the weekend after, I was actually at the Millennium with an ex watching Take That in concert. Yep, don't judge me on that. There was a little plaque on the floor where Steven Gerrard struck the ball from. And I spent about 20 minutes stood there just taking it all in. It's a dead sad life, isn't it? It's a dead sad life. But obviously, when we look at the league then, so Northwest Counties, midweek, Northwich Victoria have picked up a good result against Wythenshawe. I think it was a 2-1 victory midweek, pushing them towards the top. Charnock Richard look a right side this year. I don't know, Scotty, if you know much about them or Ed, but Charnock Richard look like they are trying to set an early pace.
Yeah, well, for what I've seen of them so far, they certainly seem to like, because they're not a team that's particularly pushing anything. As I say, though, I was going to just go back to Northwich again. They beat Wythenshawe 3-1 on Wednesday night. Matty Birchall, what a player he's turning out to be already.
I've seen him live.
I think he's got a goal every game so far, and he's just brilliant. Yeah, it's getting quite. There's teams in there which I thought may have done better than others so at the early stage of the season, but yeah, I think they're certainly one which may sneak up there. I think Northwich, over Congleton, to be honest. I was toying with this. We were saying last week that we think that Cong will maybe, because they've got Pope and they've got Roberts now, but as I say, I was speaking to a Congleton fan and they were saying that they're going to get the odd goal. Of course they are, but they're not going to get in the feed that they're used to by any means. So that was an interesting take on it.
And Ed, from your side, do you know what I mean? You've obviously got a background with Congleton. How do you see sides like Charnock Richards, Congleton, and what type of conversations are had or are they had behind the scenes?
No, they are. I mean, you can only see, you see what Sav put on the Facebook group last night. He's out. Look, he's like watching teams already. Like, I mean, he was. You take roll it back a few years. He was playing Premiership football, and now he's scouting in North West Counties. Like these people in charge of Mac are committed to making this work. I think obviously there was big news when Povey went to Congleton, but it's a different kettle of fish. North West Counties. It's not league football. It's not always pretty. There is different styles of football, and if they aren't getting the service that was mentioned before, they are going to struggle. There's no way it's going to be a walk in the park for these sort of players. Everyone's going to have to earn the right to play. And we are sort of assessing what's going on in North West Counties, what teams are doing what. But I bet that every other team is looking at Mac and asking what they're doing. I imagine that's the conversation, that everyone will want to beat Mac. Everyone, you look at the fans that went to Winsford, that's probably made Winsford's season. It's just by opening the doors to Maxfield FC. And everyone's going to want that. And everyone's going to turn up against Mac. But that's the way it is. That's the nature of the beast. We knew that was going to be the case. But I don't think Wits and Bunny have got any fears. I don't think that's the case. I don't think the players have. I think the players are wanting to prove a point as soon as they work on the pitch. They know the support's there from Mac. It's mentioned all the time. The fans probably is mentioned in every team talk that Wits and Bandy does. But that's not normal. Like, what Winsford had 98, and was that how many they had? I can't remember what fans they've got. But it's a new learning curve for a lot of people. Like, Wits hasn't had the opportunity to go out and watch we were in a global pandemic when he got the job, so it's been difficult from the start. And if we get promoted and the first team go up, it's a brilliant season.
Absolutely,
and as well.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I think for both of the Mac sides, it could be a very successful season with the way things are going. Scotty, obviously, I want to move on to the Cheshire Football League then, because again, I don't want to keep Ed too long. He's got a Well, I always trained at 7 o'clock. We were at 7 o'clock till 9, and these like to do the evening shift at Mac. It must be a Sav thing.
Yeah, so we're in tonight. With the lads, we'll get in about 8. They'll get in and have the recovery, or they'll go and see the physio, and then we'll get on the pitch about 8:30 till about 10:30 tonight. 13 boys will be in the gym before training. So it's a busy night, Tuesday, Thursdays.
Absolutely. So, Scotty, Cheshire Football League then. Again, plenty of goals, mate.
Yes, I do like, you kind of go through the results and then you see a random another 7-3, which seems crazy. Let me run through the Saturday results. Dylan Fletcher and Peter Silcock got 2 goals for AFC Knowsley, so they won 2-0 at home to Egerton. There's a hat-trick from Dylan Woods and a brace from Alex May amongst the goals. Broadheath Central beat Billings 7-3, which is, I always love scores like that. Congleton Town Reserves won 2-0 at home to Garsworth United. Ethan Harding and William Harding secured the win. I assume they're brothers. Ryan Mason, Brad Green, Liam Houghton and Joseph McKeegan were all on the scoreline as FC St Helens beat Middlewich Town 4-1. Jordan Boone with the goal to secure the points, and there was a fine save as well from Ben Rattican as Poynton beat their rivals Knutsford 1-0. Knutsford have had a dreadful start to the season. Yeah. 2 goals from Ryan Jackson, Tom Hassel, and and Bradley West as Lostock Garland. They beat Dayton 4-1. Jordan Amson, Jordan Benyon, and Nathan Southern scored for Crew FC. So they beat Whaley Bridge Athletic 3-0 away. And they were the goals for the Premier League on Saturday. Just going to you a second, Ed. So you've been both at Poynton and Knutsford, haven't you? How would you describe kind of the styles there and just kind of what them clubs are like from your experience?
Yes, so the Cheshire League, especially the Premiership, is a very, very good standard. Mac have got, they signed a lad from FC St Helens. So Kieran came over from FC St Helens. So the standard is very, very good. What you find, I think, in the Cheshire League is a lot of lads who are good enough to play Northwest counties, even above, but their commitments, their work commitments, their home life won't allow them to do it. They've got some brilliant grounds. They've got some brilliant players, and it's a really, really strong league. The Cheshire League. Jordan Boone, who you mentioned, played for Poynton. If you check his Twitter, he was first team at Bolton. I actually taught Jordan. That's how I know that. I actually taught him when about a few years ago. So he's gone from playing first team at Bolton to Cheshire Prem. Now he's a young lad who will need 2 or 3 years of men's football. He's a centre half. I don't know if he's playing centre half at Poynton, but he's a centre half that needs that experience. He needs that adult football. And again, without that sort of level, these players, they fall off. So the Cheshire League is a really, really good watch. It's a well-run league. Rob Goodwin-Davey, Lee Traylor, who are in charge of it, are really, really positive for football. They do a lot. But there is definitely a need and a niche for this level. There is definitely the need for it for local communities and player development. We've got a very, very young team compared to the rest of the Cheshire League. I think that's noticeable when you see us play. Our age is a lot younger. We look like a youth team, but the boys can play. And they're not a youth team because we obviously can fill it with ages. And I think that experience, we've got maybe 3 lads that are above the age of 23, which is helping in the changing rooms and helping on the pitch as well.
So obviously after an hour of technical difficulties, my end, Scotty, and a change of scenery to get a better signal on the Wi-Fi, we are back with the final part of episode 3 of the Friday Night Football Club. Obviously, Ed's had to shoot because he's got to pick his little one up. It was great to talk to him, wasn't it?
Yeah, and I think it rings through the whole club, just the fantastic setup we've got going there, right from the very bottom to the top. I think there's just, everyone's talking throughout the club, and it just seems like there's so much harmony going on. It's really great to see. And obviously, there's some great players in the reserves that we may end up seeing in the first team this season.
And I think that's the great thing, mate, because as I said to Ed earlier on, for me, I've been in a position where I've been a first team manager, I've been a reserve team manager, and sometimes that cohesion, shall we say, between the two isn't what it should be. But it's definitely not the case at Mac. Ed's very much focused on my job is to develop players and get them into the first team, but I'd like to win the league as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think he quite passionately wanted to win the league. And no, fair enough. They didn't want to go into Cheshire League 2. They thought there was higher, just like Mac, probably operating at a higher level than Northwest Counties Premier. But you know what? You can only defeat what's in front of you. So we just go along with it and enjoy it, the ride. That we can't really worry too much about that now. What's done is done. We just need to get higher up in the leagues. And, I think we've got a fantastic team to do that.
Absolutely. I think it could be a very successful season for both the first and the reserve teams. But moving on, we've obviously discussed the Cheshire Premier League, but Cheshire League 1 and League 2, again, some interesting results, mate.
Yeah, absolutely. So League 1 on Saturday, Malpass beat Style 1-0. Style have not had a great start to the season. Here's one of our favourite ones. Denton Town beat Moore United 11-1. You just don't get this kind of thing, do you? In the
Premier League, mate. Yeah.
They were 6-1 up at half time. Wally Range beat Holmes Chapel 4-0 away from home. Windle Labour beat Main Road Reserves 5-3 away. Newton Athletic 4, Wythenshawe Amateur Reserves 4-2, and then Vulcan FC and Winnington Avenue 94 drew 3-3. So I love these kind of results. Just going back down into League 2, Runcorn Town Development 2, Golborne Sports 6, West Didsbury and Chorlton Reserves 5, Ashton Town Reserves 1, Newton Le Willows 3, Nantwich Town Reserves 2, and Nantwich Town Reserves playing Mac this Saturday, I think Ed said. Sandbach United 1, Upton Junior Football Club 2, and then, of course, we know the Mac Reserves won 7-0 away at Hartford. But yeah, do you know what? These results just says to me that there are some, as Ed said, there's some players there who are I guess, a decent age to kind of just bring some experience, because a lot of young lads in those leagues. But what if you haven't checked out the Cheshire League before? Things that I've learned in the last 3 weeks, especially, is there's never a dull game.
No.
There seems to be a lot going on.
I feel like it should be called the Kevin Keegan Football League, because his mentality was, if you score 3, we're going to score 4. And I think what's great is, obviously, if you are a fan of one of these sides, or maybe you just like football, you've moved to one of the areas and you think, I just want to go and watch a bit of football. Get down and watch your local side, because the one thing you're guaranteed is goals.
Yeah, absolutely. But then the Cheshire Premier League played again on Tuesday night. Shall I jump in and just talk it through? So to go through these in a bit more detail, Dylan Alcock and Ryan Meadows were amongst the goal scorers. Wistansley Warriors, I think we played Wistansley in pre-season. They beat Crew FC 3-1. Another win for AFC Knowlesley. They seem to be doing quite well so far. They won 2-1 away at Billinge. Goals from Daniel Atkins and Sean Colton. Greenall's, Padgates and Oswalds, what a name, beat Broadheath Central 3-1. So that was goals from Ben McWilliams, Ryan Rowland and James Sigworth. Eagle Sports beat Garswood 3-2. A brace from Moro Boaventura and a goal from Remy Williams secured the 3 points. I know, after been practicing. Edgerton beat Whaley Bridge Athletic 3-1. Another defeat for Knutsford, 3-1 at home to Middlewich this time. I don't know what's going on with Knutsford. Knutsford, to me, were always a team that was kind of up there. I'm not sure what the situation is.
Past the setup and everything at Knutsford, they've got everything going in their favour. Obviously, Ed's left Knutsford. He's gone to Mac. I'm assuming players haven't really followed him, because, as he said earlier on, he's building a young side. So something's not right at Knutsford. It'd be great to get somebody on from Knutsford and give us an insight as to, are they going through a transition period, which is the possibility.
Maybe I'll write that one down, Mike, just for a future one.
Transition period.
Lowestoft Growland beat Congleton Town Reserves 3-2, and then Poynton First drew 1-1 with Altrincham Reserves. So AFC Knowlesley, only 4 games played, but played 4, won 4. They're top of the league. Knutsford the bottom, played 3, lost 3. So there's I don't know. It's interesting, the dynamic this season. I think who we kind of expected up there may not be up there. So AFC Knowlesley are kind of up there, and the likes of FC St Helens you kind of expect to be up there as well. So yeah, it's going to be interesting, I think, this season.
And like you said, obviously with everything that we've gone through with a mixture of players, some of them are still not playing, some of them are wanting to play, some have moved. There's always that change around. This is the worst time of year as a football manager, because somebody will say to you, "Yep, Scotty, I'm going to sign for you." And then 2 weeks later, you see that they've signed for whoever down the road. So it's always a frustrating time as a football manager. But I think once you get the first 5 or 6 games out of the way, your squad's settled a little bit more. You're in a position where you can then look at, right, we need somebody to play wide right. We need somebody who can play in at left fullback for us, or we're short of a centre half. And I think that's probably something we'll see. I think we'll see a plateau when it comes to results in the Cheshire Football League.
Yeah, absolutely. And then going back to Mac, that's exactly what's happened. We've obviously needed an experienced defender, and then we've gone and signed.
Which one?
We've gone and signed.
You want a name, don't you? You want a name, you're putting me on the spot.
Oh.
Well, Kennedy obviously
played for Hull. He's signed up as a coach. That
you're going to have to Google. This is a Google moment. This is what I like about live podcasts, is the fact that sometimes we're going to forget stuff. Obviously, Kennedy being
Alex Bruce. Bruce. How could I forget Alex Bruce? He's played in the Premier League as well, and I forgot his name. So he's come in to kind of as a coach, but also can play in defence as well. So
that's a crazy signing, because it's not long ago that. Because let's be honest, he looks like his dad, doesn't he, with the nose?
Yeah, absolutely.
Do you know what I mean? And to have somebody of that caliber, that for me is a massive, massive signing.
That's absolutely the intent, I think, this season. And I mean, for example, Mac are going to be a featured game on BT Sports Score this Saturday, which I've never heard of a Northwest Counties team ever being featured or spoken about on television at all, ever.
No. Does this mean we're going to get, we're going to be, anybody who's obviously not listening to Silk Sport on Saturday, who's watching BT Sports Centre, is going to see Robbie Savage commenting on his own side?
I think Robbie Savage is doing this so he can still watch the Mac games whilst being at work.
He's getting paid to watch his own. Some people have just got a right job, haven't they? They've got a right job. But obviously, as we move into the Cheshire Senior Cup, then that's obviously something that a lot of sides look for. It's a prestigious cup in the area. We've had the draw. How have we fared in this one?
So we've drawn the Cheadle Heath Nomads. To date, it still needs to be said, but I think they're going to be played about November time. I think I saw. So Cheadle Heath Nomads. I know them because John Hudson's the reserve team manager there. But they're also a team that's in the Cheshire League, I believe. So it's we'll see about that one. I think for a competition that the old club did so well in, there's no reason why we can't go for it in this one. Because often it.
I was going to say, I think sometimes, when I was based in Nottingham, so you'd have the Nottinghamshire Senior Cup, and you would always have Forest appear in it, Notts County appear in it, Mansfield appear in it, but it was only ever their under 21 side, I think it was at the time. So you get excited that you've drawn, I don't know, Notts County away, thinking, Meadow Lane, Notts County, big game, and you play the 23s on the training pitch.
Yeah.
Hopefully, which is something that Mac as a club now will take quite seriously and win. Yeah,
well, I don't think we can look at it anymore like maybe we've done in the past. I think the Cheshire Senior Cup again is going to be something we want to win. The FA Vars is now something we're going to want to win. So actually, we're looking at these competitions like we can probably win these. There's no reason why we shouldn't win these. And that's the target for the Vars. Cheshire Senior Cup. I'm not sure what the club think about the club or the history of the old club with the competition, but I hope to see that Danny Witt's there. He's obviously got experience and he's probably played in quite a few the Cheshire Senior Cup ties in the past. So I'm hoping they kind of look at that and thinking it's a good time for some of the really good reserves to shine, even if it's, playing some of the ones that are winning 7-0 away. I think that's maybe the platform for them.
Yeah, and I think this is where I would like to, on the back of what Ed said earlier on, I would like to see the likes of Tyler and Louis Sheed play a little bit more and get that exposure. Because obviously, as Ed said, when you're a young player, when you're 18, 19, you play against a big area-arsed centre-half that's going to put you 6 foot up in the air, it does make a difference. That's where, to me as a footballer, I played my first senior game as a 15-year-old. Yeah. And I remember coming out for a ball, and this great big striker, he was an animal. I came out for this ball, went to punch it, and my God, I think I went further than the ball did. He hit me like a ton of bricks. But do you know what? It was a wake-up call because it made me realise that there is that physical element. You can be as flair-based as you want. You can have all the speed and the technical ability. But if somebody like you or I is playing against a quick lad, what is our mentality? I'm going to whack him. Yeah. You've got to be able to take that, haven't you? You've played football. I've played football. You know what it's all about. So for Tyler and for Louis, and hopefully the one that we couldn't remember the name, Suarez, I think his name was. Yeah, this would be great experience in the Senior Cup for him.
Yeah. That was absolutely my mentality on the pitch up at AstraZeneca. 5-a-side football. If someone was smaller than me, I was running into them. No one's stopping an 18-stone man running into
you. The last thing you want as a small player is to get whacked by somebody like you or I.
Yeah, often they kind of just ran around me, which is fair. But, my tactic was just pretty much, I did better standing still than I did moving. That was for sure.
And let's be honest, you don't have to chase them either, do you? Nothing worse than chasing somebody who's like lightning. They've gone past you and you think, it's not happening.
No, just no. But yeah, so I don't believe we've gone through the Northwest Counties fixtures for this weekend.
No, I know that obviously the big one at the leasing.com, Mac are taking on Earlham, which will be another fairly steady test for them.
Yeah, see, I've got no real knowledge of Earlham. I don't foresee them being a particularly an amazing team. Without being disrespectful to any team in the Northwest Counties League, Mac should be competing, if not more, with all the teams. I don't see Earlham, for me, as someone who they may pull out a shock result. I'm not saying they couldn't, but, likely you'd think that Mac will do the job quite straightforward.
I think it's down to mentality with Mac. I think it's just remembering that as a football club, they've got a 1-0 advantage because of the size and the brand of the club before they even go on the pitch. So psychologically, they're in front. And if mentally they stay in front and they're on the game, we shouldn't fear anybody. It's that one time we switch off. We kind of did against Winsford. The one time you switch off and you come against the Charnock Richard, who look like the form side. Congleton are a form side. Vicks have started really well. it's that time when you slip up, and that kick up the backside with the defeat, to be fair, not necessarily a bad thing.
No, not at all. I think that 4-4 was a little bit of a kick up the backside. So yeah, I'm hoping Mac just come out and roll over. But then again, as Ed said before, everyone's hoping and looking to play Macclesfield. So Macclesfield is everyone's cup game. So, I believe Macclesfield is a good thing for this league. And I'm hoping to get other people on from various leagues to kind of back me up on that one a little bit. So without sounding arrogant, I think Mac's a good thing for the league. So yeah, I hope this Saturday. I hope there's some from Earlham. I miss the days of seeing like a load of away fans just stood in the John Askey Terrace. So I'm hoping. I can't imagine it's going to be a case, to be honest, this season. Maybe Congleton on Bank Holiday Monday, but
yeah, I think you'll find that Congleton will bring a decent following. Northwich Victoria tend to take a decent crowd. But yeah, I think when we get to the business end of the season, I think when we get Christmas out of the way, we get to February, March time, and there's things to play for. I think you'll probably see if Mac are playing Charnock or Congleton are playing Vix. I think that's when you see the bigger crowds.
Yeah.
But what else have we got this weekend then?
So AFC Liverpool are playing Avro, Barnoldswick Town against Prestwich Hayes. We've got Charnock Richard, who started really well. We spoke about that at the start of the podcast, that they may be actually, they may be one of the ones that kind of go in there, not make much noise, but actually are quite competitive this season. Lower Breck against Litherland. Litherland haven't had much luck this season so far, let's be honest. Silks versus Earlham. Northwich Victoria against Longridge Town. Paddyham against Squires Gate. Runcorn against Skelmersdale. Winsford against Burscough. And then Wythenshawe against Vauxhall Motors. And then they play again on Tuesday night. I haven't got the fixture list in front of me, but I believe Mac are at home to Prestwich Hayes on Tuesday.
Yeah, and obviously just talking about Prestwich Hayes, Scotty, they've not had the best of start. They got promoted into the league, did very well in the league below. I've got a good squad, a good manager, and a good group of players and a good following, to be fair. They did quite a bit pre-season, but my understanding is 3 defeats on the bounce, rock bottom in the league. And then, as I say, that's a time when you don't want to be playing at Macclesfield because you need to find momentum somewhere. And obviously, with momentum, it works one of two ways, obviously. You either build on that momentum and you go on a run, which is what Charnock Richard, what Congleton, what Mac and Vix have done, or it goes the reverse of that and you lose a few games, your confidence gets a bit of a kick in. And Prestwich are on a bit of a hiding to nothing at the moment because they've got nothing to lose because they've been promoted. But I think they would have expected more from their season. Yeah,
I mean, we've seen teams like Wythenshawe come in the league, won the opening 3 games, I think. They won the opening 2 and then they lost to the Vix in midweek. But they're someone who's coming in the league and I think they're just going for it. They've got nothing to lose, and I don't think we've seen much from Prestwich yet to see that actually they're going to go for it. So I think them and Litherland at the minute are probably the ones that are going to struggle a little bit.
And I think the tie of the weekend is the reversal of last weekend's FA Cup tie, as Northwich Victoria travelled to Longridge last week. Longridge now come to Wincham Park this week to take on Northwich Victoria. Vix with a 2-1 advantage over Longridge. Longridge, by all means, were a very strong side, a very capable side, and they're always there or thereabouts. But I think Steve Wilkes' men will be looking to continue the form they're under. And I think for them, it's a case of stay undefeated as long as you can. And as I said before, build that momentum.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the Vix this season they've played together, they've had some years experience together. I really think they're going to be the real deal this season. And even though you look, say Northwich Victoria on Wednesday night got an attendance of 225, I've still not got over the fact of the attendances. And there was always a big thing before the start of the season that there'd be trouble getting tickets and stuff like that. But they're just, I don't know. I expected the Northwest counties to be a little bit better supported, and I think it deserves to be a little bit better supported.
Yeah.
Maybe it's just because teams are in the areas of other big teams who play in the Premier League or the Football League or whichever, but I don't know. I don't think it deserves a couple of hundred people. Maybe that's just me. I think maybe that's why teams in these divisions in the Cheshire Football League need a little bit of bumping up in terms of exposure. I think,
I think you're right, and I think it's kind of getting that mentality out there that if, for example, you are let's say you're a Preston North End fan and you live not far from Longridge. Do you know what I mean? Go over to Longridge, and so if Preston are playing away and you don't want to travel down to Reading or to Cardiff or Millwall or Fulham on a horrible Tuesday night, but Longridge are at home against, I don't know, Charnock Richard. This is where fans need to get behind their local sides because it doesn't cost an arm and leg to get in. The atmosphere, as you saw at Winsford, the atmosphere is fantastic. Sometimes it's better at a North West Counties game than it is at a Premier League game.
Yeah, absolutely. And you're certainly going to get more entertainment. As we've seen throughout a lot of these lower leagues, there's certainly a lot of entertainment down here. Kind of moving away a little bit, I did want to mention there's a match going on the 22nd of August, and it's the Lee Collins Memorial Match. Basically celebrating the life of Lee Collins and promoting mental health awareness. So it's taking place at the Silk 106.9 Stadium. It's going to be a Congleton Town versus a Port Vale All-Star team. Some of the players in the Port Vale All-Star team: Anthony Griffith, John McComb, Mickey Adams, Joe Davis, Adam Yates, Clayton McDonald, Billy Painter, Danny Glover. There's a whole load of lists. Just check out Congleton Town Football Club on Twitter. But yeah, so tickets are on sale now by going to mindbodysoul.co.uk. But, I think 2:00 kickoff, I just think things like this are quite important, not just for the side of things. It's going to be a great day because you're going to see some former players who played across the leagues. But I think, anything promoting mental health, I think that's something really important. And across any league, we should be promoting and celebrating these kind of matches. So I just wanted to mention that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's something that we certainly need to continue to mention up until the date of kickoff, and potentially even go down to and see a few people. Because like you say, I think sometimes, Scotty, we forget that it's not just a game of football. To me, football is my life. Do you know what I mean? Without football, I would be a nightmare because I'd be bored stupid. But I think for me, football it's a family, it's a community, and there are people that suffer with mental health issues. And I think being involved in a family, in a football club, and around people quite regular can only be a good thing. It's a good environment to be in.
Yeah, absolutely. I think Tom Pope and Gary Roberts are going to be playing as well, Richard Duffy. So, you know what? If anything, it'd be a good Sunday afternoon. It's my birthday, the 22nd of August, just an FYI.
He's waiting for a card.
Pardon?
You're waiting for a card, aren't you?
I like the cards that make a noise when you shake them, or something falls out of them. Otherwise, it's don't bother. It's fine. Yeah, but you know what? I'm hoping to get a few more players that play around the league. I'd like to hear from, and hopefully, players who kind of see our vision of Mac being in the league being a good thing. I've spoken to a couple of players from Winsford, so I've spoken to Joe Duckworth, for example. And I think they're loving having that atmosphere. I think the Mac fans bring in X amount of people, and 900 being there at Winsford. I think that's what Mac are going to bring to this league, an atmosphere at games. Otherwise, 100, 200 people, I'm not sure how much atmosphere can be gained from that. Yeah. I'd imagine.
I think you're right. Just going on the back of the fans, I've obviously spoken to the guys at Congleton at Northwich Fix, and they get a steady following. I remember going to watch Congleton before the season that was expunged and everything else. And they played Hanley Town. I think there's nearly 400 people there. And the atmosphere was pretty good for a smaller stadium. And I think both Congleton, Winsford, as you've said, Northwich Fix, are all in a position where they're looking forward to that experience because it will come twice a season, once in their own backyard, and once they'll get to play on an EFL standard for all selected.
Yeah, absolutely. And I believe this weekend's also the start of the National League, North, South National League, and then the Football League. That started last weekend, but so I think all the leagues are kicking off this weekend.
Yeah, Premier League starts Friday night. So it's, as we are talking, I believe Arsenal are taking on Brentford. And then obviously we've got the Premier League kicking in. Our boys are over in Norwich. We take on Norwich. I think that's a 5:30 kickoff. So I shall be listening to that on my route back from Silk Sport. No doubt doing my nutting all the way home. And then obviously it's pretty much back. And obviously just to wrap up, Scotty, because obviously we are in a fortunate position where we get to support our local side. We love a Premier League side. But it's just nice that we've watched the Euros. We've experienced the highs, the lows of European football, cheering on the country. But now we get back into the bones. And for me now, tomorrow, Saturday, is the return to normality for life.
Yeah. Yeah, being there back at football, it feels amazing. Being able to just, get in my car, travel half an hour down the road to go to an away game like Winsford, I really like that. I'd really like that over thinking it's like 3 hours to Colchester or something.
Better than travelling to Plymouth.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I did that actually. We played Exeter. I did that. I've done Exeter on a Tuesday night, so I've done a few of these before, but yeah, none of that exists in this league, and it's all watchable. So it's completely possible to see the majority game to the season. There's no real excuse other than childcare, which is my excuse.
But
I'll be there.
It's a steady enough excuse. We can give it.
Yeah. But I'll be there on Saturday. I look forward to it, and I just think it's great. The atmosphere before the game, it's an experience, and that's what we want back. And that's what we've got back, a match day experience, a little bit of buzz before a game. The kids are excited now. You've got the Savage Foundation kids that get in for free as well. They get to come on the pitch at halftime, so it's exciting for them. The only thing I can't hear is the Andy Worth on the announcer. But
not necessarily
always a bad thing.
Not a bad thing, Worth it. Not a bad thing. And obviously, if you're not at the leasing.com this Saturday for Maxfield and Earlham, or you can't get to the Bix game against Longridge or any Congleton games, then what you can do is obviously tune into Silk Sport on Saturday at 2:00, and we'll have all the updates. But my advice is, if you've got a local side that you live near or you want to go and watch, get in the car and go. Go and support your local side. Trust me, my radio show's great, but it's nothing better than watching a live game of football.
Your station, Silk 106.9.